Hey guys, and welcome back to another FBS conference ranking where today we are taking a look at the Conference USA. This is one of my favorite little FBS conferences that's seen its fair share of changes over the years. A lot of schools have kind of moved on specifically to the American Athletic Conference. However, in 2023, we saw a lot of fresh faces to Conference USA, including a lot of schools that had made a change up from FCS football to the FBS level. And starting in 2024, we'll get another one of those schools making that jump from FCS to FBS. We'll talk about that here is when we get to that school here. And in 2025, another school will be jumping up from FCS to FBS. So we're going to talk about 11 schools today, and I'm really excited to talk about each and every single one of these. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, guys. As always, going from our first to worst, but I do have to say as a disclaimer here, Conference USA was one of the most difficult rankings that I've had. I've spent days kind of going back and forth, and I'm never going to feel 100% satisfied about this ranking because there are some fantastic logos in Conference USA, but somebody's got to be last, and today that's going to give us Sam Houston State, home of the Bearcats. Ranking this logo and some of the other conferences that we've discussed on this channel would rank it quite high, and that's what's so difficult about Conference USA is, again, there's just fantastic logos here. Sam Houston, no disrespect, I really enjoy this logo, but someone's got to be last, and Sam Houston, I'm sorry, man. I think what you're doing here is great. I love the S and the H. It's simple, and we have the paw print right in the middle to show off the mascot here. It's a Bearcat, which is a pretty unique mascot name in college athletics. Really, Cincinnati is the only other one that I can think of. The University of Cincinnati, we ranked their logo quite high during the Big 12 conference, and again, that just goes to show how difficult this ranking was to put together. Sam Houston doing a lot of things right here, especially in its simplicity, again, with just that SH and the paw print in the middle. It looks a lot better now than it did previously in the late 90s and early 2000s. They cleaned this up and made it look really nice, but I really liked what we were looking at in the 70s where we could actually see the Bearcat itself, because it's always had a ton of personality and ferociousness to it. I've always liked kind of leaning more into the Bearcat like that. One color of bright orange and the font that they're using for SH don't really do a whole lot for me. I mean, you really have to love orange to appreciate the color on this logo because it's not giving you anything else besides that bright orange. So this kind of just comes down to mostly just like a coloring for me, and the fact that like all the other ones that we're going to look at ahead, I just like a little bit better, but I still really like Sam Houston State Conference USA. This is not going to be a easy ranking to put together because, again, fantastic logos that we're going to see here, including our next pick, number 10, UTEP, or the University of Texas at El Paso, home of the Miners. Now, when I was first putting these together, I assumed that UTEP would be quite high because I have always really loved the wordmark logo with the UTEP using the miner, the pickaxe there in place of the T. Much like what we discussed with Sam Houston State, this is a great way to incorporate the letters or the name of your school, the UTEP, but also include an element of the mascot. In this case, again, that's the pickaxe there. I love this look. I think it's fantastic. I think what they have now as their primary logo that we're seeing, it's really strong from a graphical standpoint, but I really feel that this is just over designed. The miner guy, yeah, he looks pretty tough, but I feel that there's just way too much detail going on with him. It kind of takes away some of the personality and the character of the miner. He's just over designed. There's way too many colors kind of thrown in here: white, gray, orange, blue. There's a lot of elemental unfocus is how I'm going to put this. The motion and the energy of that pickaxe swing is quite strong, and I do love him popping out of the mountains there with the big sun in the background. It really gives us this West Texas landscape, and he does have this ruggedness about him, especially with that mustache. That looks great. But I just think that there's too many shadows, too many strokes, too many graphical design elements going on in the actual miner himself for this primary logo. It's just kind of a lot to take in. And then we see UTEP and miners, and we see the miner himself, and it just all feels just, whoa, a little too much of a good thing, a bit too much graphically to take in. Unlike our number 9 pick, LA Tech. Ooh, okay, this just feels a lot more relaxed and approachable because like UTEP, we can see everything that we need to know. We can see that we're in Louisiana because we have a Louisiana in the background there, and we can read clearly the team that we're looking at, Louisiana Tech, and just a much more simplified, approachable look. I love the colors here with the red, white, and blue. It's so crisp and clean. I love it. They've been using this logo for a really long time, which is kind of like more of a modern update that we can see now. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This looks great. I love being able to see Louisiana in the background. Such a recognizable silhouette for a state. And so we don't have to do a whole lot of craziness here. A big red T to symbolize Tech. You know, they are home of the Bulldogs, which nowadays is kind of a pretty common, underwhelming mascot name. But I've really loved the personality that they've had in their Bulldog when they've kind of leaned into some alternate logos that highlight their Bulldog. I would like to see more of that and maybe just a little bit more incorporation into the primary logo. But beyond that, I really love looking at this, and LA Tech, killing it. Great logo. At number 8, we've got Western Kentucky, a very interesting logo. I'm excited to talk about this one, but this to me, I think I prefer the actual story behind this logo more so than the execution. That's not to say the execution is bad. They've been using this logo in one way or another since 1971. And the story behind this goes that legendary basketball coach E.A. Diddle coached at Western Kentucky for 42 seasons from 1922 to 1964. And when he passed in 1970, he was honored in the biggest way possible by incorporating what he was best known for, which was waving this red flag into the actual branding and identifier for Western Kentucky. Waving that red flag, traveling with it. I mean, I'm a big Steeler fan, so like, I get it. This is kind of like a terrible towel in a way. Like that red flag is just a huge rallying icon of Western Kentucky, and I love that. I love that that community kind of transcends into the main branding identifier of the university. It's super cool to me. So for Western Kentucky, I mean, we've got the red towel. We've also got the name Hilltoppers, and I thought there was more to the story than that, but apparently it's just called Hilltoppers because this campus just sits on top of a hill. So there you go. Well, we got to talk about Big Red, the actual mascot of Western Kentucky. This guy is an absolute menace in the best way. Like, I don't trust him whatsoever, but if I had to scrap, like, I would want Big Red on my side. This is someone that you want in your corner fighting for you. One of the most well-known mascots in all of college athletics. This guy's goofy. He's ridiculous. And yeah, he's an absolute menace. I love him. But the logo itself, I mean, this is what we're doing here. We're ranking logos. We're talking about logos and ranking them today. I think in 1971, I mean, 40 years, they were doing it right. I liked that in that logo, Western Kentucky, like the actual letters were a bit more integrated into the folds of the towel. And I like the towel design better too in those years. It's like this current logo doesn't really even look like a towel. It doesn't have those bends and fold that it had previously. And the WKU text is just kind of pasted on. Like, it doesn't look like it actually like is integrated into that towel. That's not really waving or folding or bending in a satisfying way. And it gets just WKU pasted onto that. It just doesn't feel as convincing as it did for the 40 years of the first version of this logo. Overall though, still a big fan. At number 7, we've got the Liberty Flames. And like, I'm not going to get into kind of the history of Liberty University as itself. There's a lot of things that I don't agree with about the university and that I'm not a fan of. But I can't say the same for this logo because I actually think it's quite strong here. Now, the name Flames kind of comes from like a biblical sense in that the flame is kind of like the light of the gospel from the Bible, which is why they go by the flames, although they kind of use more of an imagery of the eagle in their logo here. And the eagle itself, I mean, we can see some flames within that eagle. So even though they're called the flames and they have this eagle imagery, we can still see some flame elements in that eagle. And I think that's quite strong, actually. He's got real aggressive intensity and emotion. And the fact that he's popping over that LU, and that LU on its own actually looks pretty sweet too. It's got some serifs on it that give it a nice flow and motion. Very, very strong look. I mean, Liberty University, as far as the athletics go, was really put on the map when they played Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl in 2023. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the logo, and that's kind of where the story ends as far as Liberty University. At number 6, we've got Middle Tennessee State University. Ditto everything I just said about Liberty with their logo and crank it up a little bit. I like this just a little bit better than Liberty. The blue raider that we can see, kind of this Pegasus vibe popping out of the MT, the lightning coming out of his mouth just adds this extra level of like insanity to an already like sweet logo. Again, the Pegasus, the winged horse flying out. Like, that thing's flying out and it's like, hey, let's rock and roll, let's party. And I'm here for it, man. I love the nice blue in the MT as well. I mean, we're the Blue Raiders. We got to see some popping blue. And yeah, those letters really shine, really pop, like super crisp on that. And everything about this is working for me. And the same can be said with our number 5 pick, New Mexico State. Now, the fellow that we can see popping out of NM State there, his name is Pistol Pete, and you might recognize a version of Pistol Pete here if you watched our Big 12 ranking. I mean, there's a version of him that looks eerily similar to Oklahoma State's very own Pistol Pete. And actually, New Mexico State has agreed to pay Oklahoma $10 a year to use this logo. That's not a typo. It's $10 a year to use this logo, which, I mean, it's chump change. It's kind of a joke. But the actual Pistol Pete that's in their primary logo here with the dual guns popping out of the text, the NM State, is so sick. I got so used to like seeing this logo all the time because New Mexico State, more often than not, was my school of choice anytime I was playing NCAA 2014. So I've always loved looking at this logo. I think that Pistol Pete in this primary here with his 2 guns, tons of personality. He's got this kind of like old Western gunslinger attitude. And this is what we were missing. I'm just going to directly compare it to University of Texas, El Paso, UTEP. That's kind of what we were missing from that as far as the personality. But I mean, Pistol Pete brings it here. And anytime I look at this logo, I'm like putting my hands, I'm like, dude, don't shoot. Like, this guy is tough and scary, and it's just like a perfect representation of kind of this Western attitude that New Mexico State brings. I mean, I love this logo, always have. And I really like in recent years, they've been using this state with New Mexico kind of tied in, accenting the T's there. I love how simple and clean this looks. They use that on helmets sometimes, and it looks awesome. New Mexico State, absolutely killing it. And now for number 4, we've got Jacksonville State University, home of the Gamecocks, the pride of Jacksonville, Alabama, not Jacksonville, Florida. This is Jack State. That's kind of more of the recent sort of branding that they've given to Jacksonville State. They start calling it Jack State, and they have a lot of different kind of variations of this, a lot of which includes elements of the Gamecock, which has always really been the big emphasis of their branding, this crazy, aggressive looking Gamecock that's always ready to just scrap and fight. And this current version, I mean, it's literally flying out at you, and I love that it's kind of integrated into this layered look where we can see this big oval with Jacksonville State up top. That's where the Gamecock is flying out of. And then it's got the text of Gamecocks in front of it with its like taloned feet in front of the text of Gamecocks. So there's like this really awesome layered stacked look to this logo that I'm a huge fan of. It's definitely busy for sure. There's a lot of things going on with this, and there's a lot of detail in the Gamecock himself, but I'm okay with it here because I love the intensity coming out of the mascot creature here. We can see the aggression, the intensity. I mean, it's just all there. It's okay to have all these details for me because, again, it just works really effectively overall with this awesome layering, these great colors, and just this awesome design. Like Jacksonville State knocking it out of the park. And we can say the same about our number 3 pick, Kennesaw State University, home of the Owls, beginning play here in 2024. And what a welcome addition. Man, this logo is so sick. Kind of the only logo in Conference USA that doesn't give us any indicator on its mascot or location, but I'm kind of okay with that here because of just how strong this is. I mean, that interwoven K and S just fit together perfectly. It's like they're molded to be together, that S and K, with the serifs coming off of it too. Really add this kind of like angular jaggedness to it. And the colors too here with the gray, the black, and the yellow. It all just pops for me, and it's really, really crisp. I love how awesome this looks. Striking that perfect balance of being kind of like a vintage look, which they have for sure. They've used this S and K in the past, which has this very vintage look to it. Like this would look right at home on a ball cap from the 1930s. And they've also incorporated elements of the actual owl that they got, because this is the Kennesaw State Owls, including this like badass winged SK, or I suppose I should say KS because it's Kennesaw State. So we'll call this KS. But I mean, even if you take away those wings, we're just left with this beauty of a logo that I feel really just like pops more than any of these other logos. That just simple look with the 2 letters. We've seen it before. We've seen it a million times on this channel already, but the way that these letters interact with each other and just kind of seamlessly weave in and out. Yeah, this KS for Kennesaw State, it's simple, but man, is it effective. Guys, if you've made it this far into the video, first of all, thank you. And I encourage you to go ahead and like this video, give a thumbs up if you're enjoying, and subscribe if you haven't. I love putting this content out for you guys. Appreciate you making it this far into it. Let's go and reveal our top picks, beginning with number 2, Florida International University. Hear me out. This FIU logo has got to be one of the most underrated in college athletics. This logo kind of has it all here. So we can see the FIU in the background. We know what school we're looking at here. Awesome coloring with that dark blue and that gold. I will say the font is a little simple. We've seen the varsity block letter a million times by now, but I'm willing to overlook that based on the strength of the Panther logo itself. Look at that thing just like coming out at you with all the aggression and intensity in the world. That thing is horrifying to look at, and it's sending a message here. I mean, then the message is like, dude, this freaking Panther's about to rip me apart. The intensity from that Panther, it just can't be overstated. I love how aggressive and mean this looks. Yeah, again, I wish the FIU in the background could be holding up a little bit more, or maybe this Panther could be popping like out or over the FIU instead of being placed a little bit in front and kind of below the FIU. I think in 2001 to 2008, they were really doing it right with kind of having that shield there. You can see sort of a modern inspiration for the Florida Panthers, the hockey team that plays in Miami. I do think the Florida Panthers have an insane logo. It looks awesome, but yeah, this FIU Panther look, extremely underrated and one of the best in college football. I'm gonna say it. It's one of the best in college football. We got to talk about the Sunblazers real quick. This was the team name or the mascot name up until 1987, and FIU has incorporated that into kind of some fun like alternate uniforms, and these are by far some of my favorite throwback uniforms in college football. Like these are sick. That Sunblazer logo is so much fun. Like it just gives me Southern Florida like fun, easy, carefree sunshine vibes. Florida International, your athletic department is knocking it out of the park. Severely overlooked and underrated. And let's go ahead and kind of put an asterisk in our ranking today, because at number 1, I got to go to the Delaware Fightin' Blue Hens. The This was our #1 pick in our video about the Colonial Athletic Association of the FCS. And when they begin play in 2025 in the Conference USA, they're going to be my #1 pick for the best logo. But until then, I guess the #1 honors go to Florida International. So FIU, you're #1 for now, but your days are limited because, again, as soon as Delaware starts playing there, this is, I'm not going to lie, probably top 5 all-time favorite college athletic logos. I would say elite logo, very much like elite quarterback Joe Flacco, who happened to play at the University of Delaware as well as the University of Pittsburgh. Shout out Panthers. Yeah, everything about this works for me, from the bold colors, that yellow and blue and white, so crisp and snappy, to the personality from this fight and blue hen, kind of striking that perfect combination of aggressive and assertive, but also fun and really cartoony if we're being honest. It's unique, it's creative, and it's the best logo in Conference USA beginning in 2025 when they fully integrate into the conference. And y'all, that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, again, be sure and leave a thumbs up on this video. Comment down below which of these teams, which of these logos is your favorite in Conference USA. And again, I thank you guys for clicking. Thanks for hanging out. We will catch you in the next video.